Hey folks, happy Friday. Welcome to Advisory. I hope you guys are doing all right. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit more of a serious topic, which is dating violence and abuse. We've been talking about healthy relationships. We've talked about boundaries and what happens when those get crossed. Today we're going to be talking in clear and explicit terms about dating violence and abuse, the warning signs, and how to get help. I really ask that you pay attention to this presentation because the information in it could save you or someone you love from being in an abusive situation or from staying in an abusive situation. And one more reminder that even though we are talking about dating violence and abuse, a lot of the abusive behaviors that we're going to be discussing can also translate to other relationships like friends or family members. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this presentation is available to you on your advisory website. Remember that you can go to Longhorn Country and find your grade level to find that website. This presentation is interactive. It has many links to other resources for you, and so I would encourage you, if you need it, to go to this resource and use it. I want to start with the Dating Bill of Rights. I adapted this from one that I found online. It's simply a list of I statements that can be an assurance to you if ever you feel like there might be some warning signs of abuse in your relationship. I have the right to be in a healthy relationship, to be treated with respect as an equal, to say no and be heard, to express my own opinions, to have private time in my own space, to have friends, interests, and a life of my own, to ask others for help if I need it, to live a violence-free life that is free of threats, to change my mind at any time, to have my needs considered as much as my partner's, and finally, I have the right to end a relationship without being harassed, threatened, or made to feel guilty. Everyone in the relationship has these rights, and you can use these as personal affirmations if ever you find yourself in an uncomfortable or unsafe position in a dating relationship. Earlier this week, we talked about the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships, and I just want to go over those two things right now. Remember that a healthy relationship means that both you and your partner are communicating, respectful, trusting, honest, equal, and have the ability to enjoy personal time. The relationship might be unhealthy if one or both partners is not communicating, is disrespectful, is not trusting of the other person, is dishonest with the other person, tries to take control of the other person, or if you feel like you only can spend time with that person. However, like I mentioned earlier this week, there is a third category where it goes from unhealthy to abusive. It's a very important distinction between unhealthy and abusive. Sometimes when things are unhealthy in a relationship, they just need to be addressed with clear communication, and that heals and things become more healthy. However, sometimes that unhealth in the relationship evolves into an abusive relationship. Abuse is occurring in a relationship when one partner communicates in a way that is hurtful, threatening, or demeaning to the other, disrespects directly the feelings, thoughts, decisions, opinions, or physical safety of the other, physically hurts or injures the other partner by hitting, slapping, choking, pushing, or shoving, blames the other partner for their own harmful actions, makes excuses for abusive actions and/or minimizes the abusive behavior, controls and isolates the other partner by telling them what to wear, who they can hang out with, where they can go and/or what they can do, or pressures or forces the other partner to do things they don't want to do, threatens, hurts, or blackmails their partner if they resist or say no. There should be a very clear distinction between things that are unhealthy that you may be able to work through and heal, and things that are downright abusive and should not be acceptable in a relationship at all. There are multiple different types of abuse, and if you want to learn more about any of the things that you're about to see, you can click on this right here where it says types of abuse. In fact, anytime you see words underlined in this presentation, that will send you to a link to a website called loveisrespect.org that will tell you more information about it. But these are the main few types of abuse that you may experience or see in a relationship. Physical abuse, which includes but is not limited to these things: assault, any kind of punching, kicking, slapping, biting, choking, any sort of physical harm; preventing eating or sleeping; harm to children or pets; driving recklessly with you in the car; preventing you from leaving; throwing objects; anything that can bring physical harm or a feeling of unsafety. Abuse doesn't have to be physical, though. It can also be emotional or verbal. And that looks like calling you names, insulting or constantly criticizing you, acting jealous or possessive, refusing to trust you, even if you've not given them any reason to not trust you, isolating you from family, friends, or others, attempting to control your appearance, telling you what to wear or what sort of things you can do with your makeup or whatever, humiliating you in any way, making fun of you in public or in front of others can be a way that that happens, blaming you for their abusive behaviors, or gaslighting you by pretending not to understand or refusing to listen. There can also be sexual abuse or coercion going on in the relationship, which looks like forcing or manipulating you into having sex or crossing a physical boundary, ignoring your feelings regarding sex, insulting you in sexual ways or calling you explicit names. Sexual coercion happens when you don't really want to do something, but your partner pressures you until you finally give in and do it. It may look like implying that you owe them something sexually just because of something that they did for you or just the mere fact that you are in the relationship with them. It may be giving you drugs or alcohol to loosen your inhibitions to make it harder for you to say no, or continuing to pressure you after you say no. And I know you've heard this so many times that it might sound corny, but no truly does mean no the first time. If someone tells you no, that is not an opportunity to try to get a yes. A no means a no, you take that no, and you accept it. 10 or 15 no's and one yes is not a real yes. Another type of abuse that I've seen fairly prevalently is digital. A large portion of our interactions these days happen online, and dating is no exception to that. These are some examples of digital abuse. Telling you who you can or can't follow or be friends with on social media, sending negative or threatening DMs, texts, or other messages, insulting or humiliating you with posts online, constantly texting or making you feel like you can't be separated from your phone, looking through your phone or checking up on your pictures, texts, and social media records, using any type of technology to monitor or track what you're doing, stealing or insisting on being given your passwords, or, and this is a big one, sending, requesting, or pressuring you to send unwanted explicit photos or videos, sexts, or otherwise compromising messages. And here's another one I feel like we all need to understand very clearly. Don't sext. Don't send nudes, don't send pictures, don't send videos, none of that. But it's more than just a bad idea. If you click here, you'll see all of the legal reasons in Texas why you should not at any point take, send, or distribute sexually explicit photos or videos of yourself or others. Look at the very top line of this legal code: possession or promotion of child pornography. Read this with me, okay? A person commits an offense if the person knowingly or intentionally possesses or knowingly or intentionally accesses with intent to view visual material that visually depicts a child younger than 18 years of age at the time the image of the child was made, who is engaging in sexual conduct, including a child who engages in sexual conduct as a victim of an offense. And there are all sorts of specifications as to what the law really means and how much trouble you can get into. So please, don't do it. It's a bad idea, and you could get in lots of trouble. Okay, let's move on to talk about who is who in an abusive situation and what you can do if you yourself are in an abusive situation or someone you know is in an abusive situation. So there are three roles: the abuser, which is the person who physically, sexually, verbally, or emotionally hurts or attempts to control another person in the relationship; the target, which is the person who is subjected to controlling behavior or who is hurt physically, sexually, verbally, or emotionally by another in a relationship. There's also a third person in every abusive situation, which is the bystander. This is someone who is aware of or suspects that someone might be being abused in a relationship. The bystander may become aware of the abuse through the abuser's or the target's actions or words. And we're going to talk about what you can do if you are in the position of the abuser, the target, or a bystander to relieve the abusive situation. Let's talk about what can potentially be done if you are possibly being abusive, if you are the abuser. Even though someone may be acting abusively, that doesn't mean that they are altogether done as a person or will forever be that way. If you suspect that you may be the abusive person in the relationship, these are the things that you can do. First of all, see that there is a problem. It can be very difficult for someone who is in a pattern of abusive behavior to actually realize that they are causing a problem. Second, you can acknowledge the specific behaviors that are causing the problem. What are the specific behaviors that are causing the other person to hurt? Once you acknowledge those behaviors, you should set goals for the specific ones that you want to either start doing or stop doing. Create a plan, maybe with a therapist or another mental health care provider that can help you put in the effort to reach those goals. And then over time, review the evidence of change and improvement. You can also click this link right here to see more information about how to get out of abusive behavioral patterns. If you feel as though you may have been abused, again, all of these words that are underlined and bolded are links that you can follow, but these are some of the steps that you can take. Notice the warning signs of abuse for what they are, and sometimes it takes us seeing it from someone else's perspective or getting space from the relationship so that you see the warning signs objectively rather than having your emotions tied up in the person. Number 2, realize that you deserve to be treated well. You may or may not feel that way all the time, but you do deserve to be respected and cared for in a healthy way. Number 3 is document the warning signs of dating abuse in a journal or a phone note. Record dates, times, and descriptions of behavior. If there are any physical signs of abuse, it may be good to also take pictures and keep those as well. It might be time to create and implement a safety plan, which basically means a plan for you to get out of the relationship or get away from the person in a safe way. If you click that link, it has an interactive safety plan that it takes you through if you should need it. And finally, in the third role of the bystander, if you suspect someone that you know is in an abusive situation, these are the things that you can do. Number 1, acknowledge that they are difficult in a scary situation. Sometimes just the acknowledgement of, hey, that is really messed up, can make someone who's in an abusive situation feel less crazy and feel more empowered to do something about their situation. Be supportive and listen. Don't try to insert your own advice or anything like that. Sometimes people just need you to listen and support them. Be non-judgmental. That means to not judge the person for being in the relationship in the first place or for staying in an abusive situation. Sometimes it can be very hard to just up and leave a situation, and so it's important to be non-judgmental towards the person who is receiving the abuse. They are probably already being judged and criticized by the person who is abusing them, so they don't necessarily need that from you. Number 4, remember that you cannot rescue them. All right? As much as you can listen and be supportive and help them find resources that they may need, you yourself should not feel the responsibility of saving them from the situation. You can help them and support them in developing a safety plan by following that link or just talking through what they could do to be safe. And perhaps most importantly, you can encourage them to talk to people who can offer further assistance, like a school counselor in our case, like a therapist, like a hotline. There are lots of resources out there that are more equipped than you or me to help someone get out of an abusive situation. So make sure you don't try to do that all yourself, but that you are looking for opportunities to reach out to professionals. This circle right here can give you some examples of what you might be able to say if someone comes up to you and tells you about their abusive situation. Of course, you listen first. You start with, I believe you, and acknowledge what they have said. And then you can say things like, thank you for trusting me. It's not your fault. I want you to be safe. You don't deserve this. You deserve to be treated with respect. This is important. Ask them what they need. Tell them that you're glad that they told you and trusted you. And tell them that you're here if you ever need them or need to talk. This presentation has a lot of information in it, but it is not an exhaustive list. If you want more information or resources for domestic abuse or violence or getting out of an abusive situation, you can go to any of these 3 sources. I got most things from today's video from loveisrespect.org. You can also find resources at the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Or you can also talk to our counseling team here at WT White or any other trusted adult that you know. I know that this topic was maybe difficult to hear or uncomfortable to hear. I thank you for your attention, and I encourage you to, if you find yourself in an abusive situation or if you know someone who is in an abusive situation, to not be silent, to speak up, and to seek help. Be good to yourself and others. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you real soon.